Flight boss, bitch. For sure. Listen to the mind of an Terry's Moon. I am the Royal Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucker responsibilities. And this video right here is going to be about how to wake the dead. Now, y'all know we don't get lost on this channel. Y'all know we know how to separate. We don't get lost. We know the difference between the spiritual realm, the physical realm. We know how to not get lost in la la land. We know how to not add too much dogmatism to the third dimensional concepts and certain. So y'all know what this is about to be about. So for the most part, we're going to get into full detail of how to actually understand this practice. All right? And I hate to even use the word practice because that got so much baggage put on it based upon the direction I just put it in. I just put it in the energy field of esoteric energy that we're getting ready to explain. So, a bunch of people will watch that and be like, oh, he's talking about, so you know what I'm saying? But that's a whole nother video. But for the most part, we're going to talk about waking the dead. Now, here's the thing. What are we actually doing? We are reawakening something that has expired. Now, something that has expired is a form, a deity that an entity once used, something that was in it and is no longer using it. So this could be a thought form, a feeling, all the way down to an actual vehicle, a person that a spirit once was in. And then that person have died. So they daughters of men has expired, and then they sons of God has fade off. Now, for the most part, depending on how much that person have influenced you, based upon that fluid that they have developed, that energy conscious awareness that they have developed for themselves, based upon how much they have impacted you or influenced you, right? This allows you to be aware of that dead portion, that dead ram, that dead flesh. You see what I'm saying? So keep that in mind. Now, here's the thing. Once that spirit has left, that can play on like footprints in the sand or things that you can attach to as representation of what was once a whole has now had scattered, and many different pieces and attributes you can add in order to walk that same path. So that would be like dead forms. Now, what are you doing to reawaken it? You're giving it life. So for the most part, how do you give life, right? Your visions, your thoughts. For the most part, when you become aware, you give something life. When you become aware, you create energy, consciousness, and now you could be consciously aware. What are you aware of? Energy. What is we call it energy? Consciousness. That's why we give it the term consciously aware. You are aware of your conscious energy field. So for the most part, as a spirit, teamwork makes the dream work. This is how we all created the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimensional realm, the subconscious realm, the purgatory realm, the realm of life. Because as spirits, this is how we give things life, by creating a vision, by becoming aware. So that's your ability as a spirit to give life, to have a will, to have a desire. You know what I'm saying? Now, the ability to imagine. So, when you give life to something that has expired, aka when you become aware, when you start to think, when you start to externalize, when you start to imagine something that has already expired. Now, like I said, you have to be aware of what have once been expired. That could be a person, a mind frame that you have killed, a desire or feeling and an emotion that you no longer want to be attached to, all the way down to an actual person, a spirit that was once in a body. You know what I'm saying? And then their thoughts and feelings that they was carrying with them. Their sons of gods, aka them being a god, having sons, mentalities that they was carrying through them when it was inside their daughters of men. You know what I'm saying? AKA their body that received their mentality. And then there, for the most part, as a spirit, it can't use those vehicles anymore because it has expired. So the mind has scattered off like winds, and the body has scattered off like earths and lands. And then for the most part, it plays out as an influence that, therefore, that you could remember in your membrane. And once you start to give it your spark as a spirit, you start to create an imagination, a thought, a feeling, a vision. You give that dead expiration body form, whether it was a thought, feeling, or a memory of a person, life. Now you're on the practice. Now you see how things starting to realize this is what we all doing. I know you Protestants and religious people is about to be like, oh, he's getting ready to talk about some new age type stuff and this, that, and third, and this getting ready. This sound normal, don't it? Don't sound so nice what you do no more now, do it? You see what I'm saying? But that's another video. But like I said, right? Once you get into this energy, right, now you are reawakening the dead. Now it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And here's it is. It's based upon the spirit. It's based upon a percentage level. So this lets you know how powerful you are as a spirit. If you a spirit that put a lot of energy work, you give a lot of spark to something, then that therefore you're getting ready to manifest something a lot faster than a spirit that scattered off in La La Land. They put a little bit of seconds of energy in this area, a little bit of seconds of energy in this area, so they get it back in that same magnitude. A small percentage level of everything that they like or dislike or maintain situations. See what I'm saying? To the point it goes a little bit more extreme to spirits that put in a lot of energy work, and you can't convince them otherwise, whatever that they're participating in at the moment. You see what I'm saying? You can't stop them from doing that. They're more disciplined. Now let's check this out, right? So now anything we do in the third dimension, this body itself is a ritual. It's a spell. So anything that we're doing is not what you do, it's how you do it. So you're practicing to bring something into your life via person, place, or thing, circumstance, or situation. So based upon, if you look at the shadow government and you look at what's going on in the actual world, based upon y'all jumping in, wanting to be entertainers and stuff like that, they got y'all playing out old tarot card themes, aka they got y'all reawakening the dead, but reawakening the dead that they fake or their destination was led to catastrophic moments. So you guys end up experiencing the same catastrophic moments in your own individual way. You know what I'm saying? So keep that in mind also. So just because of your favorite person or whatever like that got their head chopped off, something else might happen to you, but it still was extremely catastrophic. You see what I'm saying? It's just the individual path that you went and your way of going about it was your way, how you determined your fate. But it was in a similar magic square based upon how everything is set up now. You know what I'm saying? So keep that in mind. So once we start to talk about, for an example, right? You could get candles, you could do certain things, but at the root of it, it's all about just reenacting circumstances, right? Pardon me. This is like reenacting circumstances. To know certain names or to know certain experiences, so you can add on to that experience with your thought and feeling, and then you expand in that universe so you know what to do next. And this is like small kind of increments of letting us know how we're kind of traveling as a spiritual race and how we're going in bigger vehicles or creating bigger organs that could be more aware of the universe or more could see more perspective. But we are creating this based upon our ability to think and feel. So we are externalizing vehicles and trying to make these things more dense so we could be born in that perspective or that created universe that we're actually doing. Now, here's the thing, right? Let me break this down as far as because before we get too esoteric or witchcraft out and Wicca out and things of that nature, right? This is something we're all doing, so you need to understand this from a spiritual basis. Let's take Tupac into consideration, right? So let's say you're trying to wake the dead. You're trying to wake Tupac. You're trying to reassummon Tupac. Now, what you will actually do is you will harness on certain thoughts and feelings that you may think Tupac may have had by reenacting certain circumstances or situations that you think will lead to those conclusions to make a person act in that manner, right? Once you start to do that, once you take yourself on that spiritual path, you'll start developing the same energy that Tupac had. You'll even have people around you start to see you in that same kind of light and push you up in that same kind of space, whatever Tupac was participating in at that moment. Now, eventually, you're going to create a same scenario where you end up having the same kind of fate as Tupac. Now, your meanings or reasons of actually doing these things was to obtain whatever you think Tupac have had. So that's letting you know that if you're in the music industry and you think Tupac was the biggest rapper, a lot of times this is how they lead y'all to y'all fate, by you receiving a whole bunch of attention because you're acting in similar ways in some way, shape, or form, being hypocrites. Now, here's the thing. When we start to talk about that would be a negative way in some way, shape, or form. Where there's positive dead, you can wake, you can reawake, and things of that nature. People who didn't suffer and things of that nature, and start to act in their virtues and things, because all it is just like a whole bunch of creative concepts and stuff like that. You even have certain rituals and stuff like that in masonry where they, what is it, the Hiram Abiff ritual ceremony or some shit like that, where you go through a certain ceremony, right? And you're supposed to go through you're supposed to experience how Hiram Abiff got killed. in some way, shape, or form. So when you experience that, you experience a second after he got killed, and then that's when you're supposed to be given a name, or you attach a name to that feeling or something like that, and then that's when you add on, and then now you got your place to go be a slave in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension and be born out there. That's another video. I don't even want to get too far into that, but I'm just trying to help people understand human psyche. Like when you understand human psyche, I don't give a fuck what's hidden, what's not hidden, what's knowledge, what's not knowledge, what's wisdom, what's not wisdom. It is no other conclusion man, woman can come up with. So there's nothing to hide if you know what's already written inside of you, because you wouldn't be here. You got these everybody in the world got here the same way you got here. So don't ever always think like that. So don't ever put yourself into a situation to think that someone knows something that you don't know, because that always puts you in a lacking state in some way, shape, or form. Then how the fuck they got here? And they gonna have the same fucking answer you have. So for the most part, we all need to start there. And then once we all start there, you will start to understand that, okay, we in a certain space where I don't give a fuck how intelligent you are. If I know the position mentally, emotionally, and physically, and historically you was in to even come to these conclusions, you don't got no other answer. You ain't come up with no other idea. You know what I'm saying? You can't, and not to no angel, I'm Archangel Uriel. You might get away with a human with some dumbass shit, but you know, that's a whole nother video. But like I said, we just talk about shit. This is what we do on a day-to-day basis, and we have other individuals who are utilizing these kind of tactics against y'all. But at the same time, like I said, right, when you reenact circumstances and situations, these certain vibrations that whatever you are reenacting was experiencing, you start to see the same type of visions. You start to come up with the same kind of conclusions. This is why you could get the Catholicism and church and things of that nature trying to reenact the alignments in the sky, because it's like the language of God, so they could kind of see the workings of how things was created with the word. So that's how they start coming up with choirs and humming and church and prayer and things. That's what these things is, manifesting that kind of energy into reality on a micro scale. You see what I'm saying? So all of these things are reawakening the dead. That's why you got the Book of the Dead. That's why you got people who are praying every day for some spirit to come back in the body that it didn't died from 2,000, 4,000 years ago, and a whole bunch of. But since they can't see it in that way, and they can't understand that it's not a history book, it's a spiritual book letting you know what we are doing with our bodies. They can't see it in a way that same way they was born out of a person. Okay, we live in a person now, and the person that they trying to say come back can't actually do that. So you see what I'm saying? But that's another video. But you just got to broaden your mind a little bit, you know what I'm saying? And you'll be able to understand, and you'll be able to go to better places in esoteric. But at the same time, when we start to talk about waking the dead, right, it's just about giving life to something that has expired. And you want to make sure that you're giving life to the right things if you're going to be practicing this in some way, shape, or form. Now, what I'm talking about right now is on a very broad scale. I didn't even get deep under any circumstances in this video. You know what I'm saying? I didn't tell y'all no practice. I didn't show y'all. What I gave y'all was a generalized concept. So anybody on all the ladders and stepping scales could understand. Even to your motherfucker most mental cage Protestant can understand that this is a form of what they're doing also. You know what I'm saying? When we get deep, this is shit in person, which I'm going to be presenting to y'all once we get on the motherfucking road, which we ain't going to talk too much about that on this video either. But like I said, right, this is a generalized concept to help you understand what does it actually means to wake the dead. And there's a lot of different practices that you can do to actually do this. Now, I just gave you a equilibrium spiritual perspective of it, so it ain't what you do, it's how you do it. Now you can know you're awakening the right things. You know, some things need to stay dead. Some things need to stay non-paid attention to. Some things need to stay non-aware. Even if you got a little bit of awareness of it, it's all about a percentage level. How much percentage that you're gonna give the awareness, your energy, your conscious to it to give it life, right? And then that's let you know how much percentage level is gonna play back in your life. Playback in your membrane, rememory banks. So like I said, this shit is motherfucking deep. And if you're reawakening the right shit that had characteristics and traits with it that can manifest in stuff that was more of your favor, and it's small on the percentage level of things that's not in your favor, then go for all these motherfucking practices and things that these natures that they got out here for you to do to obtain that motherfucking energy when you reawaken the dead. But for the most part, this video right here is just about knowing what the fuck you're doing. Flight boss, bitch, you know, for sure.